October 1929. The banks close, the money inside stays inside, the people outside get nothing back. In 2 days, the stock market loses billions. Businesses built over decades are gone by Thursday afternoon. You had savings, you had a job, you had a plan. In 1 week, all 3 of those sentences changed tense. 6 months later, you are in a breadline. A year ago, you would not have believed that sentence about yourself. The bank wants the house back. You cannot pay what you no longer have. The notice goes on the door and the door stops being yours. You pack what fits, you leave what doesn't. The road ahead has no guaranteed destination. That is now the plan. The land stopped working the same year the money did. The topsoil that took centuries to build blew away in a decade of drought and bad farming. The dust storms came without warning. Walls of dirt a mile high. They buried cars. They buried fences. They buried everything you just tried to replant. Inside, the dust found every gap. You breathed it. You ate it. Dust pneumonia killed children across the plains, and there was no medicine and no relief coming. 3.5 million people left the plains, loaded what they had onto trucks pointed to California. California had been told there was work. California was not ready for 3.5 million people. Some states put guards on the state line, turned people back. You drove 2,000 miles, and a man with a badge tells you there is no room. You have nowhere to turn back to. The migrant camps had no running water, no sanitation, no school. You built a home from scrap wood and called it surviving because that is what it was. 1 job opening, 60 men for it. You come back tomorrow. You come back the day after. You stop counting how many times you come back. Selling apples on the street corner was not a joke. It was how men who once had careers fed their families. Pride was a thing you negotiated with daily. Roosevelt's New Deal created jobs building roads, bridges, and parks. It wasn't enough for everyone, but for the ones it reached, it was the difference between going under and holding on. Every meal was a calculation. How far does this stretch? Who needs it most? What can wait until tomorrow? The answer to the last question was always you. 2 million young men rode the rails, town to town, looking for harvest work, construction work, any work. The railroad police beat you if they caught you. You got back on anyway. The Depression was an equalizer in one specific way. It did not care what you used to be. The breadline didn't ask about your former title. Neighbors fed neighbors when they could. Communities shared what little existed. The Depression built a specific kind of solidarity that people who lived through it never forgot. Roosevelt talked directly to people over the radio, said their names in spirit, said he understood. For millions of people, that voice in the dark was the first thing in years that felt like someone in charge gave any thought to them at all. For a nickel, you could sit in a movie theater all afternoon. The screen showed a world where people had money and problems that resolved in 90 minutes. That was worth a nickel to a lot of people. The shame was its own weight. A generation of men raised to believe providing was their identity. The Depression took the job and left the identity standing there with nothing to do. The war ended the Depression. Not the New Deal, not willpower, the war. Factories that sat empty for a decade ran 3 shifts a day starting in 1941. The cruelty of that timing never fully settled. The same men who couldn't find work in 1935 enlisted in 1941. The Army fed them, clothed them, gave them a bed and a purpose. For some of them, it was the first stability in a decade. The GI Bill gave veterans college and mortgages. The middle class that the Depression crushed rebuilt itself in a decade. The people who survived both built it deliberately because they knew exactly how fast it could disappear. People who lived through the Depression never stopped saving things. Every jar, every string, every scrap. Their children thought it was strange. It wasn't strange. It was memory. A generation stopped trusting banks, kept cash in mattresses, in jars buried in the yard, because they watched money in a bank become unreachable overnight, and they never fully forgot that lesson. They never wasted food. They never complained about a meal being plain. They had lived the version of the story where there was no meal. Everything after that was relative. They built the most prosperous middle class in American history. Then they spent the rest of their lives quietly terrified it would disappear again, because they knew it could. They had seen it happen once before breakfast on a Tuesday in October.